That I will Google that in my spare time.
Well, I can't say you'll regret it. I think your life will be just as full without it.
You ever had jellyfish?
No. Have you?
Yeah, it's strangely tasteless.
How does one prepare jellyfish?
It was in a salad.
What?
Yeah, it was just like small strips cut up in a cold salad.
Like a green mixed herb kind of salad? Spinach?
No, it was all white, like white vegetables and
Oh, okay.
white jellyfish.
Oh, interesting. So the jellyfish was white, not clear.
Yes.
I'm assuming it was moon jelly.
Unknown.
Probably. Where were you?
Portland.
Huh. Probably moon jelly. They're really easy to cultivate, and they're often grown for food or for both for aquariums or.
Those are kind of the
Asia.
most
yeah.
like well-known common jellyfish.
Yep.
At least along the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
And yeah.
Super
Western
easy to
coast.
grow. Yep. Most aquariums grow them behind the scenes to feed other jellies and other exhibit animals.
Aurelia medusae. Huh.
They can be up to the size of a dinner plate and about an inch thick, even more.
And they don't sting, right?
They don't sting. They've got little fringing tentacles around the outside that they can collect plankton with. And they have really big oral arms, feeding arms in the middle.
This says that
They're very soft.
That they eat mollusks and plankton. I didn't know that. Is that true? That's a did you know from Bio Expedition.
Plankton, yes.
Mollusks?
I don't know. I mean, they're not going to pick anything up.
Maybe mollusks when they're in their like planktonic phase?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, sure. I am also not a biologist.
Just play one on Nautilus Live.
Yeah.
These are interesting features. It's kind of a reminder that we're on volcanic, or we're over volcanic seafloor, but heavily sedimented.
Hey Miles, what's on your list to eat you haven't eaten yet that you really want to?
What's on my list? Oh, Miles' list.
Or anyone's.
Yeah, give me a minute.
Just gotta pull up the records.
I mean, I will try anything twice.
Like once for the experience and twice just to make sure you...
Don't want to try it again.
Yeah.
Yes, that has happened before. Unfortunately, it got to 3 times.
What were you eating?
Goat guts.
Oh.
Yeah. So apparently it's a delicacy in a lot of places.
Have you guys had Rocky Mountain oysters?
Yes.
Did you like them?
Till I found out what they were.
Yeah.
I was
Everyone
pretty
can
young.
look that
I
up
was
on
maybe
their own.
That's
12.
a Google on your own time. I'm trying to think too. I've had sea cucumber before. That was really good. I don't know.
Probably not the ones we've been seeing though.
No, definitely not.
Pelagic. Yep. So Alyssa, when you're moving the winch here and moving Argus up and down, what are you looking for? What kind of position in the water column are you looking to maintain?
We're trying to stay about 15 meters above the seafloor to keep a nice stable platform for the sonar to keep mapping along. So I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at the forward-looking sonar to make sure we don't have any obstacles in front of us. And also the video feed just helps with sort of situational awareness. And then you can sort of see the rocks and those sorts of things as well.
Plenty of rocks, yes. By the way, Suna, I'm ready. When you want to zoom on something, I'm here.
It'll be unexpected.
Okay, I've got 20 minutes left.
Okay.
Okay.
So where are we in terms of line 18, Dee Dee?
So Nautilus has cleared the end of line 18, but Argus is trailing behind a bit as normal. So we're going to wait for Argus to catch up and then make the turn to the next line to the north, which is 19.
All right, so 19 of 21. Slowly but surely we're getting, I don't know, I feel like it's going quicker now. Maybe it's just because we're used to it.
I'm glad someone is thinking that.
And we have lunch at the end of the shift. It's always like a nice reward. And then looking at the sonar, it looks like it's a little bit squiggly. Is that because of the ship maybe turning, or is that just sort of the terrain that we're seeing?
Yeah, so it's a combination of all of these rocky faces that we're seeing with the ship starting to make its turn, so it distorts the signal a little bit. Just what happens, and it'll clear out once we get back onto line 19 and everything settles out and we're going straight again.
Cool. And then as we're looking at this, at the side scan sonar as it's coming in live, we're looking at 2 different frequencies, right?
Correct. The side scan sonar is a dual frequency sonar, so it can transmit at 2 frequencies. A higher frequency, which is the top part of the screen, and a lower frequency at the bottom part of the screen. And that just allows you to see out at different distances. Sound travels better and longer, well, longer, not necessarily better, to a longer distance at a lower frequency, but oftentimes the image is a little crisper with a higher frequency. So we're lucky enough to have both of those options available to us.
And then this sort of black area in between, I mean, are we missing data because the sonar's not picking that up?
Yes, so the way that the transducers send the signal out in a diagonal orientation, we have a blind spot directly under us. So luckily we have Argus's cameras to fill in that blind spot and be able to fill that in. If you didn't have a camera, you would have a closer line spacing, so you have adequate overlap so that you end up covering that blank space on subsequent lines.
So that wasn't a coincidence. You all had sort of accounted for that and planned it into
Yes, so we pushed the line spacing a little bit more than you would, knowing that we have the camera system as well.
Cool. And then there is, I mean, the potential, just like we're seeing on the side scan sonar, the potential to find these sort of abnormal or human-caused objects. And we also could potentially do that just with the Argus cam.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. Something should, catch our eye that does not look like the surrounding rocks or muddy sediment.
Cool. And then as we continue this northern part of the survey area, we're on line 19, or just about to start line 19 of 21 lines total. And after we get through to that last line, the research team will meet and go over the data and the points that they've already marked and decide whether to go towards those potential targets that are maybe the most likely to be the Simone Clipper and get visuals on them, or to expand our search area to the west. And the westward decision, Dee Dee, I believe is based on historical records that you all have sort of looked through and determined that would be the most likely place.
Yeah, so Russ and his team who have combed through the archives have various parts of eyewitness accounts as well as the search efforts to locate the plane. And the additional survey area was planned taking into account drift of the oil slick that was found along the surface, as well as where material was recovered. So that's why we're going to look towards the west.
Cool. And just like with this research, in the white paper that was put together for this expedition, there are a lot of different disciplines that go into it, right? So we're working with engineers and archaeologists and, you know, there's definitely an element of geology just in terms of determining what we're looking at. And of course, all of those backgrounds.
Can we zoom? Sorry.
Yep.
No, you're good.
On the right.
Oh, look at that
right.
zoom.
Oh,
That was a pro
Is that a
zoom.
Dumbo?
Oh.
On the
oh,
right
and
one.
there
is
it
it?
goes.
It's hard without having all the lights on
Yeah.
either. The lights were interfering with the sonar
Oh.
signal.
White blob.
Yep. Thanks.
Going wide.
Yeah, so it takes a team of various disciplines and backgrounds and knowledge to plan and conduct and then analyze all of this data. By no means is it a one-man operation.
And then on that note, we had someone ask, what did everyone want to be when they were a kid? It's a good question. I can start. I wanted to be the host of Slime Time Live on Nickelodeon. And I actually wrote my 5th grade career essay on being that person. And then decided that journalist is maybe a more realistic goal because, lo and behold, they don't have Slime Time Live anymore, at least to my knowledge.
Well,
I
bring
haven't
it back.
seen it. Bring it back. So here I am 20-ish years later, and I'm a journalist and working as a science communication fellow on the Nautilus, helping to tell its story to you.
Oh, wow. I often don't say this out loud, but I was actually obsessed with maritime archaeology and particularly the Titanic. So I am
Me
actually
too.
living my,
Yes.
as you mentioned that earlier, I'm
Yeah.
living my childhood dream. But I didn't realize that that was an option for me. And so I went a very different path in school. I was looking at I have a political science degree, and
Oh, cool.
I was looking at doing international development or foreign service. I was doing economics research for a while. So, and then I met a team of submersible pilots who were my age a few years ago, and was like, what have I been doing? Didn't realize that was an option. So found my way over here and
Cool.
wake up every morning, can't believe it, I'm here. Can't believe it. I don't,
Can't
can't even talk.
And don't stop believing
Exciting,
either. Ed and I had a really cool discussion the other day. We were talking about how there's like this kind of standard when somebody says, what do you want to be when you grow up? And people are expected to, or like kids are expected to know, right? And it's really cool that you can sort of turn to this career field having maybe studied political science or journalism, or maybe getting your PhD in ROV-oriented studies, Alyssa. Did you always want to be an ROV pilot?
No, because I didn't really know they existed until probably high school.
Mhm.
And I think I was one of those kids who didn't really know what they wanted to be. So I usually just come up with a different answer whenever we had to, like, in school, be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And write, like, an essay. I mean, probably everything from athlete to doctor to all the probably general kid answers. So it wasn't really until, I guess, probably high school where I had a more formed, like, math and science, something where I won't be in an office all day,
Yep.
that sort of thing. So.
And then how did you find ROVs then?
I actually had a very brief introduction in high school, working on like a student ROV projects for like a science fair type of thing. But then it wasn't really until graduate school that I worked with them hands-on. So you definitely don't have to take the straight line path to get there.
Yeah, kind of like let it unfold and follow your interests. And maybe find what you don't like too.
Yes, that's huge. That's why like internships are huge, just to kind of
Yeah.
figure out what do I like, what don't I like, and really narrow down what you want to do.
And Alyssa, you're participating in the ROV internship, right? And is
Correct.
that under Ocean Exploration Trust?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep, it's
Cool.
through their internship program, so they also have ocean science, seafloor mapping, video engineering. So there's a couple of different types of internships depending on your interests. So wide variety of people definitely should apply.
And mostly for college students?
Undergraduates and graduate students.
Cool.
How did you apply?
It's an online form. believe through the Ocean Exploration Trust website. They have student opportunities and some information on there, so definitely check it out if you're interested. I think it usually opens around October.
Yeah, this year it will be a little earlier, in the fall. But,
and then usually doing January-ish time frame, so be on the lookout for the application and opening up this fall.
And if you're on the Nautilus Live website, you can see those on the Education tab. Thanks for checking all those boxes.
Yeah. That was not scripted. All right, Trevor, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I think Alyssa put it really well, that I had no idea. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I find that that's generally the answer for almost every ROV pilot ever that I've met.
I think most people on Nautilus.
And most people on Nautilus. It seems like everyone kind of ends up here by accident and is like, huh, this is pretty neat. I'm going to stick around. And yeah, that's about it. It's just trying something, always looking for something fun to try. And this opportunity presents itself somehow in people's lives, including myself. And I'm like, oh, I'll give this a go. And haven't stopped giving it a go yet. So.
How long have you been on the Nautilus? How many seasons?
This is my 4th year.
Okay.
And my 24th cruise.
Wow.
Giving her.
All right, Miles, you're up.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. Gone through a couple firefighter exams. Have yet to actually make an interview because I'm always out here. But this is great for now.
Did you want to be a fighter when you were a kid?
No,
that was the
not
question.
Really. Yeah, I know. I'm still a kid, and I still don't know.
Yeah.
And Miles, you've had a lot of other interesting mapping or GIS-related jobs, right?
Yes. Probably the oddest of which was some geophysical surveys in Niger and Utah and Wyoming, looking for sort of heavy metal deposits that I probably shouldn't be talking about on air.
Copy that.
Miles, what's your official title?
I'm sorry?
What's your official title?
Where?
I guess
Mr.
Mr.
Mr. Miles.
Mr. Miles.
Sorry.
For this cruise, I'm lead navigator.
Cool. All right. Moving now to the back row. Dee Dee, I guess you're up.
Well, yeah, after talking about political science, that was my major in college.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so again, I had no idea what to do with that. I think as a kid, I wanted to be a marine biologist because, like, that was just the coolest thing ever, but couldn't deal with the math involved in that, and so decided to go more liberal arts. So just happened to come across maritime archaeology as an elective course in college and took that and said, hey, this is pretty cool, and then just took a semester off and went to graduate school. So yeah.
And did you do your graduate school in marine archaeology?
Yes,
Cool.
I went to East Carolina University, which has a graduate program in maritime archaeology.
We have met many people aboard Nautilus who have been through that program.
Yes, it's a small community, so we all know each other.
Yeah.
I think, like, as a kid, especially a kid who was interested in the Titanic, finding, you know, shipwrecks and downed airplanes was always such an exciting thing, but I never knew that there was actually a path to take. Like, I had no idea that marine archaeology was even a thing.
It was just luck of the draw that my university had a class, a professor moved back into the area, moved back home, and, you know, started teaching there. So just luck of the draw.
Wow. That's a cool path. Quick question about the internship. So an engineering student wants to know what sorts of, you know, long-term or short-term internships does Nautilus and Ocean Exploration Trust offer?
I can jump in briefly on that one. The internship program that Alyssa talked about was, or is, a program that runs every year, and that brings students out, again, undergraduate or graduate students or community college students or recent graduates, out for anywhere from 2 or 3 to up to 5 or 6 weeks at a time during our expedition season. So that's a you become an intern for 1 season, and then if you're interested in coming back and if all goes well, you can be invited back for another season. But the internship is just a 1 season opportunity. And so typically interns actually several interns usually come back every year, and the next year as contractors.
Oh, cool.
So it's a 1 season internship with potential to return. I don't think anyone in here has done that. Nope.
So it sounds
But actually on board there, like on a watch that we had yesterday morning, there were I think 5 people in the van who were returning interns.
oh wow.
So there's definitely opportunities to do that.
So our retention rate is pretty good.
I'd say
Because
so.
it's a cool place to work.
Yeah,
So-
and some
yeah.
are students who are coming back year after year while they're completing a PhD or a master's program or moving from undergrad to graduate school, or they're contractors, or they're students who have since graduated and become contractors, and
Sure.
this is one of several seagoing expeditions that they're part of during the year.
Cool. So it sounds like the longest sort of available internship is around 5 or 6 weeks at a time.
Yep, and those decisions are totally made based on our schedule and the intern schedules, and there's a lot. It's like Jenga, looking at the the spreadsheets that we have.
Yeah.
So those decisions always come later down the line. But certainly, if you're at all interested in applying, check out that application on the education tab. And one of the things that the interns that we do bring out say is really helpful is actually looking at some of the profiles of the team on board. So if you go to the team page, you can see who's out right now, and look at some of their education paths, because we've had a few interns apply and say, I didn't even think I could do this, but I saw some of the other profiles of people and it's kind of similar. It look kind of like something that I've done, or
I'm
look
way
like my
better than
path.
them or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been artists on board even, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, we've had artists at sea as through the Science Communication Fellowship program, but there have been artists who are actually ROV pilots who have moved from fine arts to
Yeah.
engineering. So
That's super cool.
everyone's got a totally different path out here.
Yeah. So if you're interested, just put yourself out there and get involved, I guess. Russ, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, it looks like you had a lively discussion.
We did.
Yeah.
We did with the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, and which was so fitting because that's almost within sight of where Simone Clipper departed from on its last flight.
Oh, wow.
They had the old Clipper base was at Pearl City, right across the bay from Ford Island, where the museum is. And as it turned out, they were holding, they had already scheduled this well in advance, but they were holding a STEM camp for high school age students focused on underwater robotic exploration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's too fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and they asked a bunch of great questions, and yeah, we actually, we could have kept going easily, but just had to, finally had to cut off end the session, but it was very, as you said, very lively and
Yeah.
and really gratifying to get the chance to talk to them.
Yeah, we, Valeria and I spoke, I think I mentioned it earlier, with a group of 8th graders at a STEM, 8th grade, all girls, at a STEM camp in Santa Barbara.
Right.
And my favorite part about it was, they would stand up and ask a question and introduce themselves before doing so. And they would say, my name is so-and-so, and I am an engineer, or I am a marine
Nice.
scientist. And it was really cool. It's not like, I'm interested in marine
And
science.
who was doing the session with you?
Valeria.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and so she actually went to UCSB and studied, I think she studied marine biology. So it was cool to just have, them standing up and being like, this is what I am. Sam, one more quick question before you go.
Sure.
Do you recommend any sorts of particular projects or activities for people who are interested in internships, or just kind of like explore your world?
That is a really good question. It's really dependent on the internship track, but the general theme is if this is a line of work, if any of those tracks from ocean science, video engineering, ROV engineering, navigation, or seafloor mapping, if you're interested in any of those tracks, just start finding opportunities at in your school or in your community or at local organizations to just get experience. And it doesn't have to be the exact experience. Obviously you're not going to find an ROV engineering internship, but you could join the ROV club. You could, start building, learn more about robotics. So getting some hands-on experience and demonstrating that this is something you're interested in, that's what we're looking for. You know, we're not looking for people who have all the requirements and who have already received all the opportunities. We're looking for people who are excited about this kind of work and have curiosity and the drive to learn more. And really, honestly, we're looking for interns for whom this may be a career-changing experience. We're not looking for people who have already, you know, received all of the best internships and have the perfect grades. We're looking for people who are looking to learn more and gain that firsthand experience and are, you know, willing to jump in. So we see a lot of creative applications some years where, you know, people don't necessarily have the exact skills that are required for this role, but the point of being out here is to learn, you know, on the job. So every application on the website, on the Nautilus Live website, on the internship page, will kind of go into detail about the specific tracks and what kind of skills or educational background we're looking for. But the overarching theme is a drive to be out here and to learn more.
Cool. So
Thanks.
just do it. Yeah.
Do it, yeah.
Thanks for that.
All right, enjoy everyone.
Okay,
Ed's
see ya.
coming back in.
All right, yay, Ed. Okay, Russ, so before we got off on that internship answer, we were going around the room. We had a question asking, what did all of us want to be when we were little kids?
Well, I think, I mean, well, you know, I think, you know, I went through a cowboy and you know, engineer phase. I wanted to be a railroad engineer or something at some point. I think because I just liked the hat. But no, I think the first time I really thought about a career, like you know, I was always fascinated by history, and then I read, I think really, you know, I read Raise the Titanic by Clive Cussler, and was really captivated by that, not just by the history as well, but the idea. I think at that point I decided I was going to be a novelist, and then I think that evolved a little bit after I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then I was going to be a film director. And
I thought you were going to say Indiana Jones.
Well, that too. I mean, and I think it was, you know, following Clive Cussler, the fact that he, you know, would take the royalties from his books and started his own nonprofit and would search for shipwrecks in real life, shipwrecks and plane wrecks in real life. And I think that kind of flipped the switch for me that oh, you can do that too. And yeah, there was, you know, obviously a little bit of that wanting to be Indiana Jones. So yeah, so I ended up with a kind of a mixture of both a little bit, you know, in that I am a film and television producer in real life, and you know, try to still keep a hand in with the exploration and you know, researching into history, and that as a passion, as a, you know, as an avocation, and sometimes those paths cross. You know, I am executive producing and directing a documentary about World War II shipwrecks off of Hawaii, but in the meantime, you know, still you know, trying to be a little bit Dirk Pitt, a little bit Indiana Jones, but with a lot less romance and world saving, and far fewer gunfights, fortunately. So, yeah.
So it goes back to this concept, you know, we've talked about it time and time again, just that it takes sort of all different backgrounds and paths and disciplines, and each one of those is valid and needed. And
it sounded like, I think you mentioned Titanic at one point as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was very interested in that, you know, that story growing up, and you know, so was super excited when the ship was found. And maybe I'm dating myself a little bit because I definitely remember that happening. I was 17, and
oh my gosh.
and then yeah, and then the
I had gotten out of the Army by then already. Now I'm dating myself.
So the next year, you know, I was going to school in Newport, Rhode Island, and the next year, you know, Dr. Ballard had done you know, the dives on Alvin to Titanic in '86, and he came and spoke at the Naval War College in Newport, and the faculty arranged for a number of us to go and attend that lecture, and I went up and shook his hand. I think it was, you know, my friend had to ask my question for me, you know, because I couldn't, I was too tongue-tied in front of the great Dr. Ballard, but he was very gracious and you know, answered my questions, and I got the chance to meet him, so that when, you know, in 2016, when we you know, I got the invite to come on Nautilus to, you know, go investigate a shipwreck, the USS Independence, you know, with Dr. Ballard. You know, my 17-year-old self was just losing his mind. And then, you know, when I reported on board and checked my cabin assignment, it was right there, cabin 16,
Oh, goodness.
Ballard, comma, R, Matthews, comma, R. So I not only, you know, went to sea with him to investigate a shipwreck, but I got to you know, share a cabin with him, though, you know, we weren't on watch at the same time. So, you know, we didn't get to hang out quite that much, but
That's
it was
such
still
Yeah,
really cool.
it's such a cool story. And again, like you know, can kind of come from anywhere and you just apply yourself and put yourself out there and sort of, you know, take the risk, and you could actually be sitting next to your idol
Yeah,
at some point,
absolutely.
right? All right, Sina, I think you're up.
I didn't really know what I wanted to be either. I was sure that I wanted to be a diver at some point, which I became, but I didn't know for a very long time what I wanted to do.
And you're also a pilot, right?
I'm also a pilot, yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, logging all of the data, what sort of background, how did you get to the seat that you're sitting in now?
I was working on my master's in biology in Turkey when I first heard about the Nautilus in the Mediterranean, and it was conducting research and expeditions in the coast off of Turkey, and I heard that they were looking for some students, researchers to join the ship for the Turkey coast expeditions, and that's how I got involved. I think my advisor heard of it first and asked me if I was interested to go, and I said, of course.
How could you not?
Yeah. I was very excited.
That's
so
awesome.
Diver, pilot, scientist, and how many languages do you speak?
I speak 3.
3. So I think we found the real Indiana Jones in the room.
Yeah, seriously.
That's why I've been in my stateroom hiding, because I know she's after me for not knowing where
Yeah, I
Turkey
haven't
was.
seen you.
I have a
since
graphic
last
I have 2
night.
graphics to show you I've saved on my phone about that when
Okay.
you're done with one.
What's your third language, Sina?
German.
Oh, cool. And then English and Turkish.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Ed, I'm afraid to ask.
What's that?
We're going around the room, and somebody asked, what did we all want to be when we were kids?
Oh, that's super easy. We had a family friend who came over to the house with a 8mm film camera. Speaking of dating yourself, Ross.
Yeah, what is that?
In 19...
I know what that is.
In 1971, I was 8 years old. And we went to the park and we shot off, I think it was 4 rolls. And those were like 2-minute rolls. And they did in-camera tricks. So you would record like my brother walking behind a tree, and then you stop recording. And then I would switch places with him. They start recording and you walk out. I didn't know what we were doing. I was just, you know, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, whatever. And then like 2 weeks later, he comes back to the house with the developed film, a projector, and a screen. And like from the first frame, I was like, that's magic.
Whoa, cool.
I'm going to do that. And it just ignited a passion. I was super interested in television and video production. I grew up in Philadelphia. When it came time to select a high school, I chose a high school that had an inactive, defunct television club. They'd gotten a bunch of donations from large corporations in the area of old, defunct equipment, open reel-to-reel video recorders and the like. And the summer before I started school there, I contacted the school and I found out what day the teachers arrived. And I was there that day to help them move in. as I tried to cajole somebody into running the television club. And I think I was on like faculty member 248 or something before I finally found somebody who agreed to do it. And got to do that for 4 years, and that was, I mean, I was on my way.
Cool.
Was fortunate enough to, and it's weird because I looked at a lot of schools, like a lot of great colleges. And I really wanted to get my hands on the gear and tell great stories. And they were all understood that and told me that in your senior year you got to do a project.
Yeah, senior project.
And that just wasn't ringing. That was the only project you got to, I mean, that was it. And the equipment they had was older and worse than what I had used in high school, which is a dilemma of higher ed everywhere. And so I opted to go into the U.S. Army and be trained as a motion picture specialist, which was a fantastic school. And I was 19 when I got out of film school. And I was flying in helicopters, shooting motion pictures of amazing stuff. And I was with a group of, equally young and passionate professionals. We're all still connected today. We're all still in the industry today, 35 years after we got out or something.
I think that's 4 times you've dated yourself now.
Yeah. So, and here's the great part too, is on a 10, 12, 15 years ago, I was telling the same story. And I realized I've never told this to the friend of my dad's who brought this camera over.
Oh,
like
wow.
he ended up moving away a year or 2 later. And I did a lot of detective work, and I found him. And I told him. And he remembered the day. And then this kills me. He's like, you know what? We just got rid of a couple of our houses and all of our garages and stuff, and everything's scattered around storage units here in Minneapolis. But I think I still have that film.
Oh, cool.
And I was like ready to hop in my car and drive to Minneapolis and start tearing apart storage units because I want. But I realized the memory's just as good. And I'm a very visual person, as you might guess.
I'd hope so.
I know exactly what those films look like. That's indelibly burned in my brain. I know what the edits were. I know what the scenes were. I know what the sequence was. And I saw it once, maybe twice. But I think, if you have somebody who influences you in that way, you kind of owe it a little to them to ring them up and say, hey.
I think so.
Thanks.
And so what is your, official title on this mission?
So on this mission, I'm the lead video engineer.
So again.
But I'm also the video operations manager for Ocean Exploration Trust. So I do all the staffing of the video system. I decide what all of our acquisitions are, how everything's wired, the system design. I have a company that does that for clients, and OET is one of those clients. And we're also building a mobile system for this client that will give them the ability to do what we're doing today from vessels of opportunity around the world. So if there's an opportunity to do something out of Turkey, we could load up some ROVs and some containers and get them there, and then just put them on a vessel and go out to sea and do our work.
But you'd have to know where Turkey is to get
there.
I
do.
I logistics person.
Nice.
Saved the graphic. And now, hold on, in my defense, and soon I saved this as a screenshot because I knew you wouldn't believe me.
For those of you that weren't here, Ed admitted yesterday that he wasn't sure where Turkey was.
So, wait, I'm looking at maps now. I went into my phone, and I won't out who makes my phone. And I'm going to have to show this to you because no one will believe me. And I searched for Turkey to find out where it is. And what does that say?
Turkey. Beach Road.
No, below that.
Oh, no results found. So, okay, that's like a good defense, I guess. It might hold up in a court. I don't know.
But here's what, I know
So
this
you're saying
part.
even the internet is not sure where it is?
So, and then here's another resource showing me where it is, but it doesn't tell you where it starts and ends, and that's what I was trying to say.
That's true, yeah. Okay, so Turkey in all of its boundaries.
Yeah.
What exactly? Yeah. Okay, all right.
What does that mean? Where it starts and ends?
Here.
It doesn't have
I'm sorry for people at home who don't get to see this. If you go to your
boundaries.
favorite mapping program that doesn't show.
What do you mean? I can see the boundaries. The
Where's it
borders.
end on the east?
On the east, right there. The gray line.
Let me see.
Maybe
How
you need
about
some
west?
reading glasses.
The gray line. I don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you. I'm sorry.
The
Is that their
borders are
boundary?
shown with lines.
Is it not the border?
I don't know. If it is, there's a whole unnamed country that is in the center there. That's what drove.
We have to enhance more. Oh, this is not the real enhance.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you zoom in, you'll get it, I think.
Enhance, the word that all video professionals hate.
Yeah, just enhance it, Ed.
Yeah. There's somebody on
it's that country.
social media something, YouTube, that did a supercut of all the television shows where they say enhance,
Oh, really?
which is
Too
the
many times.
bane of video professionals. Maybe it's because I spelled turkey wrong. Is it really T-U-R-K?
This is just getting worse and worse.
No, hold on. Here it says T-U-R-K-I-Y-E.
I-Y-E.
I-Y-E?
Yeah.
No, E-Y.
Yeah, see that at the bottom? I need verification here that I'm
Bless
not
you.
just messing
Oh, it
with
also
you.
has the U. I
Yeah,
don't
it has
know.
an umlaut
Yeah.
over the U.
Yeah.
How do you spell it in Turkish?
Türkiye.
T-U-R-K-I-Y-E?
T-U.
Yeah, right.
R-K-I-Y-E.
Okay, so it's just showing me in Turkish, which makes sense. Where'd you do your diving at, Suna? Was that Black Sea or Med, everywhere?
No, it was in the Aegean. I mean, I
Aegean?
learned how to dive in the Aegean. Yeah. My hometown, actually.
Are you going to get a chance to dive when you're out here in the Pacific?
I don't know.
Are you going straight home?
I am, yeah.
So anyway, and then 10 years ago, Allison and I were working at the University of Washington on their Cape Ocean Observatory project. And actually I started on that 15 years ago. Allison joined 10 years ago. And so we got to work on that, and I was going to sea, and that just kind of expanded and grew. And I like doing this late career work. It's hard work, and it's challenging, and it's super rewarding, and you're making important contributions. And the mentoring part of it, I just can't tell you how great that is for me.
Yeah.
I love
And the
it.
view
Love
from the
that part
office
of
is
it.
pretty nice.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. There's being away for extended periods can be difficult.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But it makes that time at home so much sweeter, too.
yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yep.
Russ,
We joke that like I got married in 1989.
yeah.
So we've had 20 years of wedded bliss because I've been gone so much.
That's fair, yeah. That's fair. Russ, we have a question about the Simone Clipper.
Okay.
So, and I'm just going to read it as it is. If it sank largely intact, is it possible the wings acted like dive planes, causing the plane to essentially fly laterally from some distance away from the spot at which it initially left the surface?
Well, we've debated that here actually in the control van a few times, and not sure that the aerodynamic properties would translate to the water quite as well. Also, the fact that we think that the airplane suffered quite a bit of damage, even if the wings are intact, without the tail section attached or without the fuselage itself intact. I think that would really compromise its gliding or flying characteristics.
Aircraft fly because of thrust, not because of wings.
Right, and airflow over the wings.
And if it had been a glider, then there might be some validity to that. But those four massive engines, I think they're going to point it straight down, if not actually invert it.
Yes. That's absolutely in line with my thinking as well. And I mean, I've been on a large flying boat wreck in the Marshalls, and it's only in 90 feet of water, and it's inverted already on its back as well. So, and yeah, that's a very good point about the lift not being able to really generate lift by
By
having
falling.
the airflow just by falling, right? So yeah, so we think and especially if the wing is separated, I mean it's intact but separated. Yeah, my thought is that those 4 engines, those 4 half-ton Pratt Whitneys would just pull it down almost like a knife edge, and it would fall through the water that way rather than gliding.
This aircraft is made to withstand air pressure and air flow, but you know the pressure of water and turbidity is completely different. So
right.
Could have just rattled it apart.
And your point of that 90 feet, I mean, are you just highlighting the fact that it was able to invert in such a short amount of time and distance?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they tend to, especially with that high wing position and the weight of those engines up there, it tends to just want to roll over. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Was that a military aircraft in the
Yeah,
Marshalls?
it was a Japanese Kawanishi H-8K, which is known by the Allied reporting name Emily.
Yeah.
So big, massive 4-engine maritime patrol bomber, kind of on the order of like a Boeing 314 or a Coronado, a consolidated Coronado, something like that. I mean, you swim up on the rudder, and it's like seeing a shipwreck. The scale of it is so big.
Wow.
Marshall Islands. I like the Marshall Islands.
Yeah,
nice
it
place.
was great. It was really great. But and also, that the position estimates made by the searchers are based a lot on what they're finding on the surface and and especially on the oil slick, that they were speculating that it was the source of it was on the ocean floor. So the idea is that where the airplane impacted, it's not so much where they think the airplane hit as it is where they think it ended up. But even then, we're still speculating about what forces are acting on that debris and that oil and fuel as it rises up through the water column. Because there's a lot that could happen to it, and that's nearly 2 miles, from the bottom to the surface.
Russ, how would they have made the distance determination of 12 miles? I'm glad it's 12 and not, about 10.
Right. Well, yeah, that comes from the deck log of the USS Avocet. It says that when they were ordered to sea, they were en route Pongo Pongo to a point 12 miles north of Tapu Tapu Point.
Yeah.
So logically, that would have come from the captain, who was also the pilot.
Right.
And so he was the pilot who had flown over the area and had sighted the oil slick initially. So he's a naval aviator. He is trained in the art of locating and reporting targets at sea. So so I put a lot of faith in his estimate, and also you figure that in this case he has the island to refer to. So he has he can see from that vantage point. He can see the oil slick and the landmarks on the island at the same time. So my thought is that even if he's just estimating, he can still double check himself by, if he's orbiting the oil slick, all he needs to do is, when he returns to base, just line up the nose of the airplane on the very western tip of the island.
Yeah. And
take a look at his compass heading. Oh, it's due south. And take a look at his watch. And yeah, and he's flying straight toward it, and he's cruising speed on a Grumman J2F duck is 155 miles per hour. So just check his watch again when he is over the Tapu Tapu point, and if it's 4 minutes and 40 seconds or thereabout, 12 miles. So
was there some point in aviation where, I mean, I was surprised when we were talking with Lonnie last night about the cruising speed and landing speed.
Right.
That it was all in miles per hour.
Yeah.
When did they transition to knots later?
I assume so.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. That's a great point. I'm
that's an
not sure
interesting
when it happened. But yeah, we have the whole specification book for the for the Sikorsky
we got
S-42B.
tidbits from that this morning.
Yep.
And then so we are just getting ready to start line 19 of 21. We're in the northern part of the survey area, and looking to see if we can find any other points of interest. Those are ones that are defined by more human-made shapes like straight lines, right angles, things that aren't necessarily seen in nature. So the plan is to finish up these next 3 lines, and then the team will meet and potentially decide to either go get eyes or additional sonar readings on a few of those points that were particularly interesting, or to expand the survey area to the west. And Russ, why are we thinking of moving to the west as opposed to any of the other directions?
Just we were looking at the archival material again, and noting that the reported crash site, the position that they give, is calculated in latitude. It's calculated to degrees, minutes, and seconds, but the longitude value is really only it's degrees and minutes, and so they're being a little bit more general in their estimate as to where it is on the east-west axis. So, and we figure if we're going to figure where to focus our search, where is it more likely on either side? Where would it be more likely to look? And given that the evidence at the time showed that the wreckage that was recovered was drifting to the northeast, and the only other instance of debris that we know that was found that had come from the airplane showed up a week later, washed up on a beach on an island due east of here. So that gives us the sense that things are moving, in an easterly direction. So if we want to track it back to its source, it would seem that it's more likely that it's coming from the west. So that's why we would focus more of our attention to the west if we have to choose, and we do, because we only have so much time remaining allotted to us. So, if we're going to favor one or the other, we're going to favor it to the west.
And that decision will be made later, hopefully later this afternoon.
Yeah. I think once we've completed this this northern section, and barring any major discoveries in that process, we'd probably at the time we finish that last line 21, the ship will already be oriented headed west, so we could just begin our next line almost immediately. Just get some separation, that 200 meter or so separation from the areas we've searched already. And
that makes
perhaps,
sense in terms of resource management, because if you want to have longer discussions about the targets, etc., you certainly don't want the boat just sitting there doing nothing. You never want the vessel not doing anything.
Exactly.
So that'll keep, we'll be making progress, and you have time to be
I don't know if
evaluating.
The weather is cooperating enough now that maybe we can do those kind of north-south lines rather than east-west. So
like 18 knots.
So
heading north is still fairly difficult for us.
Okay. Well, then perhaps we'll just continue that line, to the west a good ways out, and then start, doubling back and crisscrossing over the western segment.
Right, and in determining, this sort of expanded area towards the west, we're basing that on information that you guys have had and put together over the last 5 years, and some of that information came from one eyewitness at the time. And somebody wants to know if we've ever had a new witness come forward, maybe not just in this instance, but in other instances, after such a great period of time. And I especially want to say this and lead into this question because we do have a couple of people from American Samoa watching right now. So I think it's particularly relevant.
And Russ, just to clarify, the current at the time that they came out and made their observations was to the east, right? So we're thinking.
Yeah. I mean, because of the drift of the the oil slick and the debris,
right,
and where wreckage was found later, it all indicates that it was headed headed to the east. And,
so if the plane was 3,000 meters down and you're hitting currents on the way up, that by the time it got to the surface, the aircraft might actually be more the other way.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
So, anyway. Cool.
So yeah, so Maddie, you say we have some of our American Samoan viewers with us?
We do, yes, yes.
Well, talofa once again, and yes, we're very interested in the possibility of tracking down this story where the correspondence at the time and the accident report all mention a witness, an eyewitness to the crash of Samoan Clipper. And she is never named, but she's simply referred to as the witness or a woman who was traveling by boat. She was just offshore, had just cleared Fangasa Bay, and was working her way to the west to Asu. And when the airplane flew overhead, so presumably, I think she was probably from Fangasa, unless she was returning home. But the implication is that she was, on her way to visit someone. So there was a woman who was living potentially in Fangasa in 1938, who witnessed this tragedy and provided valuable information and was considered very reliable because she had related this story to the head and to the authorities in her village at a time before the word of the airplane's loss had reached them. So she knew this, knew all the details like well before any she could have been influenced by anything else. So it would be wonderful to hear any more details of that story. And it just seems like that's the kind of story that would live on in a family, of what an unusual event that would be, and it would be the kind of thing you would tell to the next generation, and they would pass that on. And so, perhaps if she's no longer with us, someone in her family remembers hearing, their mother or their grandmother or their aunt, or their, maybe it was one of their friends' families, who would tell these stories. So, if that sounds at all familiar, if you know who that might be, please write in and let us know. We'd love to learn more of the story and give her the recognition and credit that's due.
Absolutely, a little citizen science task assignment.
Yes.
And Didi, I think this might be a question for you. When we're looking at, we spoke a little bit about the frequencies that the sonar operates at, and we have two, right? The top is 600 and the bottom is 300 hertz, and those are audible to people, to us humans, when it's out of the water. Do we know about any sort of impacts that it might have on marine mammals, particularly whales?
Yeah, the side scan that we're using right now is not an impact to marine mammals, but there are different frequencies of sonar that is potentially harmful to marine mammals. They tend to be the lower frequency ones, some of the ones used by the oil and gas industry that are very, very low, very loud, that are used to penetrate the seafloor. It is something that we are mindful of, though, as we are sending acoustic noise into the marine environment, and we need to also be aware of different legislations protecting marine mammals, like the Marine Mammals Protection Act. And I know in some areas, especially off of the west coast of California, they have observers on vessels, and if marine mammals are spotted, they either move their operations or stop their operations to limit those impacts to marine mammals. We have not seen any marine life jumping on the surface or spouting or anything like that in the area, but it's definitely something that we are keeping our eyes out for.
True, and we are operating at a depth of over 3,000 meters, so I don't know, does it travel, vertically in the water column as well?
Yeah, it would just be sort of an overall sound being emitted within the water. There's also the sound from the tracking between the ship and Argus. That's also an acoustic signal. And there's other sort of just noise in the water that's generated just by ship operations.
Sure.